Pranda pawb, Mrs. Eardley here from sunny Ross-on-Sea. I've chosen to read the book that my children had chosen in dosbarth Can y Gwenllian, and that is the book called Cogheart. It is an adventure story set in an alternative universe, and here is the cover, just for you to have a little bit of an idea. And any good illustrations I will show as we go. I've got it on my Kindle because obviously we're not allowed out at the moment, so I've downloaded it onto my Kindle, and this is the story that I'm going to read for you. I'll be reading a chapter a day, hopefully, maybe more, maybe less, but keep popping back onto our YouTube channel and onto our website to see. Cogheart is written by Peter Bunzl, and it is published by Usborne Publishing Books, and so we thank them for allowing us during school closures to be allowed to read these out loud. So diolch yn fawr iawn, thank you very much to all of you. And I'm going to start today. It's not actually the beginning of the story. I'm going to read the prologue for you. Now, a prologue, if you're not aware already, is a little snippet at the very beginning of a book, and it usually gives us a little bit of background knowledge into some of the characters or the setting, and gives us a bit of information that might be useful later on in the story. So it's not chapter 1, it's actually the prologue. And we have a little illustration on there. And we'll start with the prologue. So, mwynhewch, enjoy, and yeah, let's see what happens in Cogheart. Malkin pressed his forepaws against the flight deck window and peered out. The silver airship was still following, gaining on them. The purr of its propellers and the whoosh of its knife-sharp hull cutting through the air sent a shiver of terror through his clockwork innards. The fox tore his eyes away and stared at his master. John's ship, Dragonfly, was fast, but she had nothing in the way of firepower. The silver airship, by contrast, bristled with weapons. Sharp metal spikes stuck out from her hull, making her look like some sort of militarised porcupine. Just then, Dragonfly's rudder shifted, and she pitched as John twisted the wheel into a 180 turn to swoop back past her pursuers. The silver airship shrunk away, but within seconds she'd swung around to follow. She began closing in once more, her propellers chopping through the clouds, throwing dark shadows across their stern. When the two airships broke into a patch of blue, she fired. A harpoon slashed across the sky and thudded into Dragonfly's hull, the point piercing her port side. Thud. Another harpoon speared into the stern. Malkin let out a bark of alarm as a stench of burning gas filled the flight deck, and the needles in the rows of instrument panels flickered into the red danger zones. Over the whine of their stalling engines, the crackle of the straining steel cables could be heard. The silver airship had begun to pull them in. John locked Dragonfly's wheel and engaged her autopilot. He threw open the cockpit door and, with Malkin at his heels, dashed towards the engine room. Pistons pump and crankshafts turned at full power while the cabin juddered and shook. In the centre of the floor, a metal egg-shaped pod sat among a tangle of pipes. John threw open its door. "No room for both of us," he said. "You need to go, Malkin." The fox gave a whimper of disapproval. "No, it should be you, John. Humans over mechanimals. You know it's the law." John shook his head. "I can't leave my ship. I need to try and guide her down safely. And you've got no opposable thumbs." He gave a half-hearted laugh and withdrew a battered envelope from his pocket. Crouching down, he stuffed it into a leather pouch around Malkin's neck. "This is for my Lily. Make sure she gets it." "What's in there?" John smiled. "Secrets. Tell her to keep them safe. She mustn't tell anybody about them. Not ever. Can you remember that?" "I think so." Malkin prodded the pouch, sniffing at it with his nose. "Good," John said. "Make for Brackenbridge. That's where she'll be. If I get out of this alive, I'll come and find her there." "Is there anything else?" "Tell her I love her." John ruffled the mechanimal's ears one last time. "It's at least a day's journey from here. Have you got enough clicks?" Malkin nodded. "Take your winder anyway." John produced a tarnished key on a chain and hung it around the fox's neck next to the pouch. "Though heaven knows who'll wind you if I'm not there." "Thank you, John." Malkin stepped into the escape pod and curled up on the seat. "By all that ticks, I hope to see you again." "And are you, old friend?" John shut the door. With a clatter and a hum, the pod bay doors opened, and in a jolt, the pod was free. As John watched it through the open hatch shrinking away in the sky, an image of his daughter, Lily, flashed into his mind. If only he could see her one last time. Tell her the truth about the past. He should have done it long ago, but he'd not been brave enough. Now Malcolm would have to take care of things. Everything was in the letter. Another harpoon smashed through the dragonfly's hull, and whirring saw blades cut through the steel ribs, ripping cracks in the ship's tin chest. In a jagged screech, the cracks were wrenched into a doorway, and two silhouetted figures appeared. Their silver eyes glinted in the light. The thinner of the figures raised a stick with a skull handle, and then John felt a blinding shaft of pain, and everything went black. And that's the end of the prologue. Now, as I said at the beginning of this is a book for older children. It is a daring and adventurous story. I hope you enjoyed the prologue, and I will be uploading the next chapter in the next couple of days. Neis gweld chi gyd, lovely to see you all. Hwyl fawr.